The plague is the worst, and you get it every year.
Plague. Well,
Yeah.
you know what's funny is, like, I'm surprised Trevor and I did not get sick after basically licking the carpet at the Nintendo booth.
I know.
Like,
Yeah, you
at
guys.
the end of E3, just rolling on their dirty ass Nintendo carpet. It's always better when you're lubed up.
Isn't it just?
Why do I say these things?
Hey everybody, it is March 26th, 2018, and this is episode 12 of Press X to Podcast. I'm Paul Sullivan. Alongside me, I have the guy who swallowed glass. It's Shawn Petraschuk.
I'm reflecting now, and I think it's more razor blades. I'm pretty sure I'm bleeding down my throat from the inside. But I'm here, and I'm gonna give it my all.
Don't bleed on the mic. It doesn't do well if you do that.
This here rum and Pepsi is gonna solve all my problems.
Booze solves everything. Everything in the world.
It really, well, I don't know if that's what we want to be telling the children.
Yeah. Don't listen to us, children.
And the man who believes booze solves everything, that's Trevor Houston.
Hello, everyone.
How you doing here, guys?
Not so bad. Not so bad. Had a good weekend.
Good.
Actually, no, I'm lying. I had a horrible weekend. My wife was out of town, so I was just like a mopey, miserable, lonely old man who didn't do shit. Sat around in my pajamas all day and played video games, which isn't necessarily bad. But I'm so pathetically married now that, like, being alone she was gone for 5 days, and my youngest is out of town too, so it was just me in the house and my annoying animals. And yeah, a lot of video games played though. A lot of video games.
Pathetically married. I like that.
That's not, yeah. Yeah, that might not have been the best choice of words.
Well, it might be the podcast title now, and I might send it directly to Karen.
What is it? No, the podcast title is consistently getting my ass in trouble. We need to change things up.
Hey, we've got a running theme, and people expect certain things now, and it's Shawn deprecation.
Yeah, basically, eventually Shawn's going to say something stupid, and that'll be the name of the podcast.
The listeners probably don't know this, but we just sit around kind of talking for a while before the cast. We're just waiting for Shawn to say something so that I can get an intro. And then we start the cast.
It usually takes no longer than 10 seconds.
Oh,
there he goes. He said something stupid again.
It's usually in the first 5 minutes there's a hook. There's a hook that we can use for the title, and it works every time.
Start strong,
Bingo.
boys.
That rum and Pepsi. Specifically Pepsi, though. Coke doesn't work.
No, Coke doesn't work. Coke is shit. Fight me.
We all know that.
Fight me.
Guys, what do you say? Should we talk about Sea of Thieves?
Ooh, you mean Sea of Meh?
Yeah, that's how I see how you have it here, is Sea of Meh.
Yeah.
Correct.
You know,
I don't like it, guys. I don't like it.
I don't think it's for everyone. It's funny how, like, there was such a build-up to release. I mean, people were genuinely really excited. I mean, it remains to be seen if Rare's maybe kind of full of shit or not. In that they're saying, look, we're starting slow on purpose, and we're going to build this world around, the interactions of players, that sort of thing. Because, yeah, I mean, most people are saying you're going to see most of what there is to offer within a few hours. So,
like 90 minutes tops. Trev and I played along with James and Garrett. I guess, what was that, release day, Trev?
Yeah,
Tuesday?
launch day. Yeah, launch day I think we played. That's right.
And I mean, after about an hour, I was like, I think I've seen everything. Every outpost has the same 5 NPCs. They say the same things. And every quest is kind of the same. All the boats are the same. And I don't know, it just doesn't seem like there's anything to keep me rolling forward.
We did encounter some pretty good server problems that night. Like, none of our gold was cashing in. You were stuck doing the jig for the better part of 10 minutes. Here's Paul, like, just doing a little jig dance on the deck.
I can't breathe. I'm out of breath here. I've been dancing for so long.
So the only way we could get him out of, like, this permanent jig was to lock him in, like, the little jail cell downstairs. And once we locked him in that and popped him out, he was good to go. But it was a weird glitch seeing him kind of just dance away. So, I mean, funny, but a strange glitch.
I enjoyed
There
it.
is more to that world though too that a lot of people haven't discovered. Like there's some like underwater caverns and like actually like sunken. There's a one spot where there's like a sunken almost city that a lot of people don't know about. You know what I mean? So there are some areas that are
Yeah.
undiscovered by many players because they're looking at. I mean, forgive me, I almost feel like I'm making a pun, but surface level, right? They're only like top of the ocean and that's it. There's more to that world. But then, yeah, like say on top of that, there was I don't know if it was an Ask Me Anything type thing or whatnot, but a rare developer did pop up onto Reddit at some point this week to say there is more. There was always intended to be more, and that this release, the slow release of content was kind of part of the plan. But then, Paul, you kind of brought up that some former developers are saying, no, that's not really it. This is kind of the game as it is, and we were worried about that from the start.
Yeah, I read somewhere that it was somebody suggested that it was only sort of 10% done, which
That doesn't surprise me.
really
Like,
10%, but it is pretty bare for
Content-wise,
sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Why else would they have the same NPCs in all the taverns? There's no explanation, there's no story, there's no missions really. It's all the same thing over and over, which is fine, and I think mechanically it's good. Like the water is incredible and the game looks great. I really like the sailing aspect, but once you've got the boat mastered, you're kind of out of things to do for a lot of the time.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean it's a shame. I mean, I think
It's the end of March Blues.
Well, I think
Did they shove
though,
this thing out because it's the end of fiscal year and Xbox desperately needed something to sell Game Pass? I don't know. Maybe.
No, because the thing is they could have like I don't think this was necessarily. It's okay. I don't think that Sea of Thieves on Game Pass was necessarily to sell Game Pass. I think it was more to make it look like people played Sea of Thieves. You know what I mean? Like the opposite of that.
Yeah,
I don't know if I mean because monetarily, the extra subs that they got from Game Pass, and if they even got them, because literally I saw nothing but post after post on Twitter of, oh, I've got this free 14-day Game Pass I've been holding on to. Like
Right.
everybody just kind of went in going, I'm going to play it for that 14-day stretch and then I'm totally going to bail. So I mean, the whole like first party games is a great idea with Game Pass, but they're going to have to deliver a lot more if they want those subscriptions to be consistent. Where it's going to come around full circle is when State of Decay 2 drops or Crackdown 3, for example. You're only allowed to use one of those Game Pass freebies once. Once there's one on your account, they're like, fuck you, man. Pay me, fuckers. Give me the money.
Yeah, I'd pony up the monthly fee for a State of Decay 2, but presumably that has more content than this.
Well, maybe not. I mean, it's a value price title outside of Game Pass as well, right? Was it $39.99 or something like that?
Yeah, well, Sea of Thieves is full price.
Yep. Yeah, which is, I mean, based on the content now, I mean, there's been a lot of comparison to, this is Xbox's No Man's Sky, right? No Man's Sea.
Yeah.
It's, granted, I mean, No Man's Sky is a great game now. I mean, they've added so much more content. But
It took a while to get there, though.
Well, it's the same thing with like, you only have one chance. I mean, it's when you think about the review crowd and everything, like when it comes to the media, is that you have one chance to make your impression. So the reviews go out on a full game. If you release in early access, that's the game. You might come around full circle in 6 months and release the full game, but nobody cares. You have one chance, and that's your debut. And
That's so true. And early impressions are not good. I mean, I'm looking on Metacritic right now. It's averaging a 70 with 29 reviews in. Now, I know our own Garrett he's aiming to have his review on Wednesday. Like, he really wants to, as he put it to me, he's like, I feel like I owe it to Rare to get to the end game, to fully rank up all my legions or factions or whatever the hell they're called. He wants to rank, I don't know what it's called. He wants to rank up his guys and get to the end game because he feels he owes it to Rare. So if there's anybody's review I'm really going to trust, it's Garrett's, because he has played the snot out of this thing.
He has.
I'm curious what he's gonna come. He's kept his opinion about the game really to himself, so I'm really curious to read his review on COGconnected on Wednesday.
I think Kotaku. I saw on Kotaku. It wasn't a review, but it was just kind of like an op-ed almost about the game, and they really put it well in that saying that like you've almost got to treat the game like it's a chat room that has a game attached. Like if you were to go in there and you're literally just floating around, but you're just, you're all playing your part, you're all doing your thing, communicating with each other. It's a good way to kind of chat with three of your buddies and pass the time, and I mean, granted, that doesn't necessarily make a great game, but if the thing you go into it with that expectation, maybe, I mean,
the problem I have with that is that you're paying for this game either through Game Pass or by buying the game itself, when you could already do that and hang out with your buddies and play a game. There's party systems on Xbox and PS4, so you could play whatever you want and party up and play something that's worthwhile. Let's put it this way, though. Like, I mean, in terms of people who want to shit on it, you're paying for Game Pass. Look, I mean, you're paying $10 a month for Game Pass. I don't want to hear you complain about Sea of Thieves, honest to God, because that's fucking pennies of that's going to go to that developer. I could see the guy who was like, yeah, I'm all in. I don't want Game Pass, but I'm going to go buy it. That guy, go ahead, complain till the fucking cows come home. But if you got Game Pass, shut your fucking hole. Honest to God. No, this stuff gets me so fucking fired up because of the fact, we've talked about this before, and these are some of the things that I'm not going to miss about being in the media, is entitled fucking shits who expect the world for fucking $5. You know what I mean? And if you literally spent, say you download even a couple of other games on Game Pass, and you spent all of $1 of your fucking money and you don't like Sea of Thieves, oh well, fucking walk off, son. End of the, that's it.
Yeah, there are a million other games to pick from, right?
Exactly.
There's other games.
Exactly. And it's just like, you are not, quote unquote, out of pocket by this. You're not inconvenienced by this. It's just a game you don't like. But just seeing the way that some people are going on Twitter, I got Game Pass and this game is bullshit. Oh my God, fucking, you need a tissue? Get out of here.
I picked up EA Access a couple weeks ago, and I'm loving it so far, and I think it's fantastic value. Even though I probably won't play 2/3 of the games on there, I still think it's great value. It's fantastic value.
EA Access is a great value. I would say that Game Pass is a little bit less of a value because, I mean, EA Access is 20-something for the year. It's about $10 a month, something like that for Game Pass. And they've got about 120 games on there. But this kind of leads into what our next news beat is here, and that like the April update for, they add, what is it, like 6 to 8 or 7 or 8 games every month.
Yep, 7 games next month.
April suck. I mean, I shouldn't say they suck. There's some that are good, but they're super, super niche. And it's just like, you're not... I mean, for the people that maybe paid out that month, they go, okay, well, I'm going to stick with Game Pass, and they wanted to get those subs up like we've already talked about before. Well, these are not the games to keep people convinced to go, yeah, I'm going to stick with this program. Right?
Yep. The only standout on the list is Cities Skylines. That is truly a great game.
It's niche.
Yeah, it is. It's a city builder.
It really is.
Yeah, and I mean, let's see, like looking at the Portal Knights, Cluster Truck, The Hunter, Call the Wild, but who the fuck plays that?
People who have Game Pass, I guess.
No one's going to download that. Kingdom Newlands, I don't even know what that is. Sacred Citadel, no one's going to play that. I'll admit that I'm slightly interested in Late Shift. I'm pretty sure, wasn't that what do you want to call it? Fuck. Figures I'm going to forget the words now. Like a live action or whatever, or FMV, like full motion video game.
Yep, crime thriller.
That one I'm slightly interested in. And again, this is going along with the whole entitled thing. If I maybe get one game out of my $10 for the month, I still got 120 other games on the service, so I shouldn't really complain. They do have Gears 4 on there. They have Halo 5. They do have games. I believe they have... oh, my brain's not working. There's definitely some games on there that I've played. So, for my $10 a month, I'm not going to complain. I still think it's a good service for my dollar.
Right.
But these games aren't for all the new people that they got in with Sea of Thieves. This isn't going to be what keeps them. They're going to drop their service. They're going to drop their service looking at these 7 games. You figured they would have just followed with an impact and like, boom, here's 7 kick-ass games. Nah, we're going to give you these.
I want to go back to something you said a while back there, Shawn, about judging Sea of Thieves if you bought Game Pass. That's kind of a slippery slope because you can't treat the game differently based on how much you paid for it.
See, for me, it's not about treating the game differently. It's about having, like, you can not like the game, obviously, right? It's about walking away with a genuine gripe. You know what I mean? If somebody spent $60 and was disappointed and they feel like that's it, I have this game now and I spent $60 for this, I can't believe that. I'm very upset because I'm never going to play this again. I spent $10 on Game Pass. You know what? Sea of Thieves isn't what I expected it to be. But wow, look at all these other games I could play if I want to.
Okay,
like,
gotcha.
Are you ripped off? No, you're not ripped off at all.
No, same page.
If you're playing on the Game Pass, it's definitely less of a blow.
Like 100%. And that's directly what I was speaking to, is the people complaining on Twitter like their fucking lives are going to end because they bought Game Pass for this game. Ugh. And it just, again, like, these are the things that make me not miss the media, because you're dealing with these entitled, whiny ass snots who just don't understand, like, I just don't get what people expect for $1. Like,
those are reasons why I don't go to Twitter that often.
Well, but that's the thing. Like these dipshits are gonna scream and yell all over Twitter or all over whatever social media they're on for fucking days because they don't have any other hobbies, right? But they're not gonna think twice of going to Starbucks and spending $6 on a coffee. They're gonna piss out within an hour. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, where do you throw the balance of your hard-earned money? And we see it from people that, like, on the COG team, for example. Everybody, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. And I mean, you know, you have to tread carefully because everybody is entitled to their opinion. And there are going to be people that think very different from me. And that's fine. But I'm going to fight you tooth and nail. You know what I mean? Like,
I guess my point here is that as a journalist, when Garrett's reviewing the game, he can't give Sea of Thieves a pass because you can get it on Game Pass. You have to judge it as it is for what it is.
Sure.
No. The game deserves to be scored as it deserves. 100%. It's I was more so really directly speaking to the complaining side of it.
Same page.
Yeah, you cannot affect it in terms of a score. I mean, if the game doesn't stack up, it doesn't stack up. It doesn't matter what you paid for it, right?
But a game people aren't complaining about that I am super excited and also super jealous you two are playing it and I'm not is Far Cry 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't wait. I
don't know. I actually asked one of my coworkers today about this because I was really unsure. I'm like, so what's the code of conduct / like, are we allowed to, like, if we have PR buddies who want to just give us a code, is that cool? Or, like, am I breaking some sort of rule? They're like, as long as there's no strings attached where they're like, yeah, man, here, I got an extra code, play the game, then go nuts, man. I'm like, sweet, because I got Far Cry 5.
And?
I haven't dove in very far yet. What I did do was the whole 10-minute get to the ending thing. I don't know if you guys have heard about this.
I have heard of it.
Yeah, basically, like, you can literally have the credits roll in the first 10 minutes. I mean, everybody kind of knows the whole plot about the fact that, like, you know, this cult type thing, and basically your character, the rookie character, when you first walk into the church, right all at the beginning of the game, you can basically not take any action. You know, you're supposed to do something and you can just sit there and stare for like 3 or 4 minutes. And then it's like the whole situation is null and void. You're in the cult and the credits roll. It's awesome.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. You stand there for like 5 minutes and Joseph Seed, the father or the guy for Eden's Gate, he's staring at you and he's like, God will not let you take me. And you stand there for 5 minutes and then eventually the sheriff looks at you and he's like, yeah, we should probably just get out of here. And you go and you get on the chopper and that's the end of the game.
What fun is that? Is there an achievement for that? If you do that, is there like a special achievement?
No, but this isn't the first time that they've done it. There was another one, I guess it would have been 4, because there was a situation with Pig and Min where you could do basically almost the same thing. It's like basically take no action at all. And yeah, the credits would roll. I mean, it's fully a joke. I kind of expected, like, with the credits rolling, that there might be some jokes in the credits too, but no, it's literally just the credits. Just roll through the whole fucking thing. And it's a beefy set of credits too. I actually sat through like a lot of it, not realizing, not paying attention that I could actually hold the left stick down and like speed scroll, because I thought maybe there's achievement. Who knows, right?
Right.
And I'd been already watching the credits for like 15 minutes. I'm like, oh, hey, look that. And it still took me another 5 to speed scroll. It's like a half-hour credits. There's a lot of people who worked on this game.
Yeah, I was looking up which studios actually worked on it, and the main dev was Ubisoft Montreal, but also Ubisoft Toronto, Ubisoft Shanghai. There was like 5 or 6 Ubisoft studios, and Redshift, and a bunch of places worked on it. And it is a massive, massive undertaking. The world is huge.
Well, you reviewed it, and obviously, you liked it. So
I
why
did
don't
like
you
it.
Give us a little bit more.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I gave it a 90. It is basically Far Cry 3 and Far Cry 4 in Montana. That's the bones of the game, and that part of it is really fun. It's a great vehicle for the story. I think the story is going to be underestimated by a lot of people because of the controversy of it's having it be a white American dude who's the bad guy, and all the people you're killing are white people. I think that's going to turn a lot of people off of it. But it's a more nuanced story than I expected. The acting is really good. The writing is excellent. And there's a lot of humanity in this evil character that I didn't expect to see. And I found really drove me forward. It made, capturing outposts and so on, things that I've done a million times before, way more enticing because I wanted to see where the story was going to go.
I'm glad to hear that, because I have seen from a lot of other outlets too, where they're saying that the story didn't stack up for them, and seeing, like some like derogatory terms in in the direction that the story went and that sort of thing. And I kind of thought that honestly that would be the only thing it stood on, because a friend of mine asked me, before I'd even had my hands on the final game, I'd been to some preview events and I'd had my hands on it in advance. What do you think about Far Cry 5? And, my answer at that point was, Far Cry is Far Cry is Far Cry. It's you're just, you're going to liberate this, you're going to climb that, you're going to do the Ubisoft grind, really. So the only thing that's really going to hold this thing above water to make it different from any other game in the Far Cry series is going to be this narrative. So, and I honestly thought that it would stack up. I'm glad to see that the whole controversy behind it really died down. Because initially there was like a full uproar, like, I can't believe you're throwing this in a game. And people obviously realize that there's more important things to worry about than the plot line in a video game. And so it kind of got left in the dust. So I'm glad to hear that you liked it, because I have a feeling that that's kind of where I'm going to be at as well, is that the story is what's going to compel me to keep playing.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird mixture of things. It's very tongue-in-cheek in a way, in that it's over the top and it's absurd, but then from time to time, it kind of cuts through itself, and you see like the core of who Joseph Seed is, who his siblings are, and what has motivated them to get to this point. There's a lot of kind of under the radar commentary on the whole gun control issue and lots of other social issues that I think if you're just playing the game because you want to shoot things, you're going to miss. But if you're paying attention, there's a lot of winks and nods towards other things, including things in the game industry, which I didn't necessarily expect.
It's funny is that I noticed in my first 5 minutes in the game, like before I even had a chance to shoot a weapon myself. And again, I don't even want to, I don't, because the game's literally just out, I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, even in the first 5 minutes of the game. But one of the things I kind of thought about right away I mean, it's funny. Ubisoft is, headquartered in Canada. We have definitely a different idea, different ways of doing things. I don't know if you want to say that influences their development. Like if there's a Canadian tinge on some of their development, I don't know if that would necessarily be true. But anyway, just the fact that like there's this entire county that, that the authorities are afraid to touch, and they have rose up and they are, they're considered dangerous and they're afraid to go in there, but they're all stocked up with like the most badass of weapons. And it was one of the first things that kind of came to my mind is like, is this, because it is based in America, is this a subtle like kick in the face to gun control for the US? I that was literally within the first 5 minutes of the game I was thinking that. And I don't know if maybe it's because it's more poignant in the fact that it's a big part of the discussion today. It's what's going on social media and in the news and in politics. So maybe there's that predisposal because we're seeing so much of it. Maybe that's why I latched onto it. But again, like I say, I just noticed it right away. So I think that's a really interesting point that you brought that up.
Mm-hmm. It does touch on all those issues, but it avoids being prescriptive and telling you what to think. It's not beating you over the head with guns are bad.
Well, they have to avoid that. I mean, that's sales flat out.
Oh yeah, but there are tons of characters in the game who are non-ironically for having guns, and they're saying, the reason that we are alive and are surviving this cult is because we had guns.
Interesting.
And when you're in that situation, you're like, yeah, if Hope County was real, you would be agreeing with those people. You'd be like, yeah, I'm glad you had guns because we're alive. Well, which is really interesting from a Canadian perspective. That's a pretty far-fetched
situation. And
of course it is.
If any, thank you, dear. The wifey just brought me a fresh rum and Pepsi. That's why I forgive her for interrupting me last week. Delicious. Ooh, Jesus, that's a strong one. There's a lot of rum up in that bad boy.
Yeah, but you're right.
Be damned.
You're totally right, Shawn. It is a totally ridiculous scenario, and that's the point I'm trying to make, is that it is ridiculous enough that you can't take it seriously, but there are things that you can look at and go, okay, this is relevant to real life. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yep. No, and I think it's important that games start to address that sort of stuff. We see that more and more now where games, even though they're set in like a fantastical type situation, aren't afraid to kind of poke their nose into social issues, right? And not that they're necessarily making a huge statement by it, but they're bringing it to like awareness in a sense. It encourages, obviously, like stuff like this, an actual conversation. That's a power that games have now that I would argue that they didn't have 20 years ago, right? 20 years ago, we weren't nuanced enough in the technology even, to bring, these stories, you need the actors, you need the voices behind the characters and all that to bring these sorts of stuff, this sort of stuff to life, as it were. And, games are more relevant than ever. And I think it's because of that. I mean, yes, they're entertainment and we all love running around shooting things, but I mean, they have that potential to be a lot more. And so many developers are now taking advantage of that. And that's the part of the scene right now that I really, really enjoy is using this medium as a real voice for whether it's change or just making people aware is really, really interesting.
And this one does a nice job of balancing that kind of animalistic first-person shooter, just guttural, entertainment with the more serious storytelling and narrative.
Well, and that's just it, right? I mean, we want to be entertained, right? So that's good.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else play anything else of note?
I am playing right now. This game is under embargo, so I can't say a lot about it, but I am playing this little platformer. I guess you might you could call it a Metroidvania, because you are kind of getting abilities as you go, that sort of thing. But it's called the Adventure Pals, and it is so ridiculously over the top and cutesy that I can't help but be absolutely in love with it. It's just, even from the initial trailer that I saw, I mean, I remember when the trailer first came out, and anybody who's seen this might remember it because it's showing this like really beautifully hand animated scene, and then suddenly this fucking giraffe comes like flying across the screen with its head back and its tongue out and swinging its tongue around like a helicopter blade. And I'm like, what the hell is this game? Well, that's the Adventure Pals. It's I can't think Adventure Time, a similar, I guess, sort of vibe to it. Where like really offbeat humor and just really beautifully drawn, like I said. Yeah, I put a lot of time into that this week, and I'm so glad that I got my hands on it. I would encourage anybody who likes a good platformer to check it out. I think it comes out like next week. It's awesome. It's so good.
I was really into it the moment I saw there was a character that was a burrito. So, I mean, I don't think you can underestimate the power of that.
I've since met, since we spoke about it, I have met Fancy Burrito. And Fancy Burrito is everything you'd hope for. But
yes.
It just starts out so funny. Like I say, this kid's out all on his own, and oh well, you're gonna go on an adventure. Here, take this, and it's this giraffe named Sparkles that you keep in your backpack. And when you need to do like not a double jump, but like a floating jump, right? So if you want to cross a big gap or whatever, he literally pops out of your backpack and bends his neck back 90 degrees. Sticks his tongue straight up in the air and and helicopters you across. Like, it's so goofy that you just can't help but smile as you're playing it. And then it just has a bunch of really smart humor, a lot of kind of direct jabs at a lot of pop culture type stuff, but not overdone like some games can do, where everything has to be a pop culture reference and you're like, all right, we get it. They don't beat you over the head with it. It's just done really subtly, and it's just really good, friendly. Like, I mean, I would let my kid play it. It's definitely like a game for everybody. I think my only complaint so far would be that I would like them to ramp up on the difficulty a bit. But I mean, I think you're still challenged by it, but it's not painstaking by any stretch. I'm playing another game I can't talk about, and it's shit. That's all I can literally say about it.
Just leave us hanging here.
Leave us hanging. Fucking people are going to be talking about it in a week or two, and it's a fucking flaming dog turd of a game.
A giant coiler.
I'm sure we'll know it when we come across it.
It's a 3-coil steamer that someone left on your porch and lit on fire.
Oh, that's nasty.
No.
Yeah.
Not the Billy Madison move. Anything but that. Should we talk about the news?
The news. I stole it. I beat you to it.
Yeah, good job. Nicely done.
I'll leave it alone next time. That was my one steal.
We already talked about one of the kind of bigger news pieces from this week. There wasn't too much going on. But one thing, going back to Sea of Thieves, when you die in Sea of Thieves, there was going to be a gold cost. You were going to lose some amount of your gold every time you were killed and had to respawn. And people bitched about it. They bitched about it a lot. And Rare decided they're not going to put it into the game anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? There's so many other games that there's a cost associated with dying.
Uh-huh.
Like I guess
anything?
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, maybe
like
it's
what?
Like
lots
anything.
Of games. Lots of games. It's like there's the like where like look at a Dark Souls. You lose all your shit. I mean, there's a cost associated with dying. I think the problem here
is the micros are attached to that. I think that's what people had issues with.
I still think it's silly.
I don't think there's actually any way to buy things in Sea of Thieves at this point.
Not at this point.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's speculation, right? We don't really know. But I mean, to lose like a small amount of gold, like, oh, you died, like that's your punishment, it doesn't seem unreasonable. But the reason that they were wanting to bring it in, I guess, they were looking at a way of trying to combat people who were basically like spawn camping and taking people out just for the sake of, like literally they would kill people and then people would spawn back and they would just fuck them again, right? And that definitely takes a lot of the enjoyment out for people.
Mm-hmm.
There is a thing built in the back end of the game where the whole, like if you're in a team, for example, you can all vote, or it's something like that, basically, where you will spawn somewhere else, right? It'll spawn you away from the point in which you died. So that helps with these griefers who are, like who are doing the whole spawn camping thing. That's the inevitability with a game like this, where it's an always online, persistent world, is you're going to have, like anything, right? You go to any place of employment, or you go anywhere, and there's going to be an asshole in the room. And in a game like this, there's going to be assholes, and they're going to do asshole things, right? So yeah, I mean, they were kind of saying that like that this was their way of trying to combat that in a sense, but obviously didn't really work out the way that they'd hoped.
Well, and I think people appreciate the fact that Rare listened to the community and they decide to axe it. Which you can't say for a lot of other big publishers out there.
Okay, but I mean, I'm going to play devil's advocate on this one, because this is an example of something else that bothers me. Does that really affect the game in any way, shape, or form? Not really. To lose, like, oh, I died, I lost 10 gold. Oh, boo-hoo. Like, I'm not going to fucking stomp my feet over that, right? But the fact that there's enough outrage by a community of whiners. Because does that really, like, and I mean...
Well, I think the fear would be is that, like, I'm down to my last 20 gold and I die twice. Now all of a sudden the game needs me to put $10 in the tank in order for me to get back in the game. And I think that's ultimately where the fear rests.
They would never shut you out for a dollar value. That's just, like, I mean, that's not even just speculation. That's just far-fetched. Yeah, that's just far-fetched. That would never happen. Oh, well, now you're out of gold because you died, like you say, that 2 times. And now if you want to play more, you need to give us $10. No, that's not going to happen.
I could see that if Sea of Thieves was a free-to-play game, which I think arguably maybe it should have been.
Maybe. I mean, I can say, I think, like I say, it's just, I think what I'm trying to get at is my point is that there are way bigger things to complain about. I mean, and not even in terms of, this game. It's just in general. Like, it just seems like such a tiny, tiny thing. Like, oh, they charge you gold when you die. Is that really worth kicking and screaming over? It just seems silly to me. It seems entitled. It really does. It seems it's just like, oh, it's another thing that we don't like, and we're going to complain about it just because. To the point where Rare, like, literally changed. It seems ridiculous. Like, they could.
So why would Rare? It just doesn't make sense to me why they would do it if they weren't going to sort of cash in some way.
But we don't know what their point is with that. You know what I mean? It literally, like, I think really, like, in the long run, there are other things that people could complain about within the actual game. There are other things in Sea of Thieves that they could complain about, like maybe the lack of content. That's worth complaining about. Oh, they charge me gold. Well, that's the thing. But they charge me gold when I die. Like, which thing is worth more in terms of complaining? Let's like on a scale of 1 to 10 of complain value, I lose gold when I die is a fucking 0.5, and there's literally nothing to do. That's a 10. Like, pick your battles. How about you bitch about the important things and literally stop complaining about the simple things? But this just goes to show the power of what a complaining social media will do. I'm not afraid to walk out on a limb and call all these people out for being the whiniest of whiny fucking bitches out there. And these fucking idiots are ruining gaming by being fucking adult diaper-wearing crybaby bitches.
Oh man!
And this is after one rum and Pepsi. You just wait till I finish this second one.
You need to join a fantasy football league. You want to see whiners online? Oh my god!
I think
when people are bitching at players because they didn't produce any, on a given Sunday or whatnot, I just think that you can go to any community and there's a level of toxicity.
And I think the level of I don't know, like, what do you want to put it out there? Like, I'm tired of this shitness, like where I'm at is just like, I'm 40 years old and I've seen people complain about useless shit over that entire 40 years. You know what I mean? And it just kind of gets to a point where you eventually go, my God, get your priorities straight. There are bigger things in the world to complain about. And this just seemed to me like a non-event. But, unsurprisingly, people are going to be babies. And like I say, I think I'm just at that point where I'm just tired of people complaining about things that just don't matter. This literally is a don't matter.
Well, you couldn't possibly complain about a new Atari, could you, Shawn?
Well, because I'm old enough to remember the Atari. Is that a joke? Is that an old joke?
It is.
A $250 classic Atari.
Well, remember, we were going to have this on the news last week, and we kind of ran past it because it was a fucking 2-hour power cast last week. But when they announced it, they didn't really give us a lot of information either. You know what I mean? Like, they just kind of like, oh, we've renamed the Atari that we were going to release and that we didn't release. And it really seemed like a non-event. We were all going like, snooze, who cares?
Yeah.
But they've started to release some stats for this thing.
That's right.
And it's actually looking pretty impressive. I'm going to give Mr. James Paley, shit. So I hope he listens to this podcast.
He better.
I'm going to give James Paley shit because I'm looking at the news piece and there's a shit ton of missing information that was sent to him. So Mr. Paley, get your news game up. I'm going to look up the information here that they sent along. James would be like, Shawn, you're such an asshole. Why'd you do that shit? James is usually very, very good. That's why I feel okay about making the joke. Because the information I'm looking for is
specs.
But this
is the specs. Yeah, and so basically, I mean, if you ask me, I mean, they've made the statement that they want this to be a bit of a
premium console.
Well, not only a premium console, but they're wanting to bring the way that they put it is PC versatility to the living room, right? So whether or not this is, in a sense, almost like a Steam box. Remember the Steam box that kind of went nowhere? But they're saying performance will be comparable to a higher-end PC laptop, 4K, HDR, 60 frames per second, AMD x86 processor. So it's not just to regurgitate Atari games, which is kind of what a lot of us were thinking it was going to be.
Wow.
In
we don't know
comparison
what games are going to be on this thing, though. I mean, in all fairness, we do not know. It sounds, I'm getting the feeling there'll be like 200 fucking games on this. I'm getting the feeling like there'll be a shit ton of games on this thing, but I don't know. We don't know that.
And I don't know if this is necessarily a preload type thing, and that like, oh, there's going to be all these, like shitty old Atari games, with like a few gems in there that we all remember,
right.
But also have the ability to, will it be able to access Steam, for example? I mean, if they're like looking at it, to be, PC spec in a sense, right? So yeah, I mean, it does mention I think that's where the classic IP from Atari's portfolio of more than 200 games and franchises, but then it says and others. It really notes and others. So there's more to it than what we're seeing. And as much as it seemed like a non-event, by at least getting this information and seeing that they want to put the meat there too, like the actual guts into this thing, there is a chance, and I'm not going to get excited about it yet, but there is a chance that this thing has more meat to it than we're all expecting. It might not be as snooze-worthy as we thought.
Yeah, I want to wait and see, but it kind of sounds like this is along the lines of the Ouya, though. They've got they're talking big, they're like, yeah, we've got a lot of publishers and developers, and we've got lots of games, and then they don't.
Well, those announcements are supposed to come before the end of April.
Okay.
Like of what's on there, right? So we got a month now to see, where we're going to hear what's really going down with this thing.
So we'll see.
There you go. Actually, yeah, reading further down the, this was basically the information that they gave all the journalists and the media at GDC. But it says here, Atari anticipates Steam and other Linux storefronts will work on the VCS. So, I mean, if this is a $250 way to bring a PC to your living room,
that's interesting.
That gives it a lot more beef. There's a lot more to talk about there. And they genuinely, like making the comparison to Ouya is actually a really interesting one, except for the fact Ouya was like, hey, we're on Kickstarter, support us, right? They kind of came out of nowhere. Atari is a name. I mean, Atari has been around. They've been through the ups and they've definitely been through the downs in this business. So you'd think that they're probably bringing some real knowledge to this, right? But they acknowledge it. There's been a mix of both optimism and pessimism in the press about the potential success. Why do you believe it'll be successful? And what does it offer that's not currently found? So they do dive into answering that a little bit. It is pretty vague. It's kind of PR talk. But I mean, they're at least addressing it. They're not ignoring the fact that people are going, we've seen this before. It's the Ouya 2.0. They're not completely ignoring it. So they're aware. I say we give it a shot before we shit on it. At least
I at least want to see what. Yeah, I need more information. I need to see what games are going to be out. I need to see exactly what the price point. Like, nothing's official. We're all speculating how much this thing's going to cost. We don't know that exactly yet. So I need to see more information.
And for a lot of us, we got to know more before, like, we're like, oh, well, we've got, in my home, I've got a computer. It's not fantastic, but I've got a desktop that's, able to play most games. I've got a PS4 Pro. I've got an Xbox One X. I've got a Switch. Why the fuck do I need another console?
You don't.
Well, it's not like I can justify it. Like when I'm going to spend the cash and I turn to the wife, I'm like, hey, I want to go and buy another electronic thing that hooks to our TV. And she's like, the fuck you do?
Honey, I need a 7th video game machine.
You should have seen the eyes she gave me when I bought the Super NES Classic. She's just like, why? I'm like, well, because it has all these great games. Great old games that you played when you were a kid? Yeah.
And I fired up that thing about 3 times. and I stood in line to get that thing. I actually dragged my wife and stood in line to get that thing.
And you haven't played it?
And I played it like three times, if that.
That's consumerism at its finest, where you get hyped up about something, and then it just kind of gets shoved in a corner. I mean,
pretty much.
Look, the beauty of this, the Super NES, is that my youngest, Skylar's really gotten into it, and he's played so many of those games. And just being able to share those games with my kid, when he's talking, what are the games that you liked when you were young, Dad? I'm like, well, just go turn that machine on right there, and it's going to answer all your questions. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
I want to move on, but first I'm going to defend James. The article you're looking at, Shawn, is from March 19th, and the specs thing came out today.
Why'd you link that one? Who linked this shit?
I didn't link it. Trev, did you link it?
I might have linked it. That might be my bad.
Oh, well, maybe no one actually.
The hell? Did
anybody post today's news?
Yeah, it's linked.
Oh yeah, hopefully showing off some games at GDC. I owe James a beer.
And he knows where you live.
You know what?
You know what? It's from last week. That's why it's the
no, and that
we were going to talk about it last week.
That is fair. So James actually did a pretty fantastic job. It's just nobody actually posted the news from today.
New news, right?
The new news from today, which had all that information. So
correct.
I apologize, James. God, I don't know if you guys you can maybe feel it in the tone of my voice, but I cringe having to offer up an actual genuine apology. I apologize.
At least you didn't do it on the internet. You did it with your voice, which is better. You never apologize
I genuinely
on the internet.
mean, I honestly thought it was from today, and it definitely would not be like James to skip over that, which is why I decided to take a friendly jab. But apparently, it was unwarranted. Old news, and James is still great.
So
James is wonderful.
James is wonderful.
I love that guy. Him and his big ass head.
Pieces of news here. Good God.
He knows he made a joke with me about his head being big. I'm allowed to say it.
Oh boy, we're in the weeds. We got to get back.
We're off the rails.
We're off the rails again.
Get this bus back on the road, Paul.
Good grief.
I'm going to have to hop on a Slack and just warn him ahead of time.
Yeah.
Dear James, I'm sorry about making jokes about the size of your head.
So a job post is suggesting that EA is making an open world Star Wars game.
There's the Star Wars nerd in me that's like, hell yeah. And there's the cynic in me that up until they kind of correct the ship a little bit, goes, don't fuck it up.
Yep. I'm in that camp.
But you know what? I mean, it's not like EA has not made some fantastic games before the whole debacle. So I'm not gonna be pessimistic about it so much as just be wary. You know what I mean? We'll wait until we see a lot more. But
Yeah.
I mean, a genuine open world Star Wars game is pretty fantastic if they pull it off. So like I say, I'm excited, but until I see more, I'm not gonna get too wrapped up into this at all.
Exactly. I'm still a little bit sour over the Visceral closing, so we will see.
Visceral. I mean, that's the one thing with EA is like, you know, you've seen them. Oh, we're bringing this studio in to the fold, and it's just they seem to cannibalize studios as they as they absorb them. Visceral is not the first studio that's fallen victim to
not even close.
EA. And I mean, and it's a shame because you see really great studios with really creative people, kind of disappearing. I don't know. We've touched on this before. It's just the real unfortunate thing when you're answering to shareholders and not to consumers necessarily. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense to keep these guys open. They're costing us too much money. They have 300 employees. Yeah, they make great games, but that's 300 people we don't want to have to pay. Well, throw the shutters up on the studio. It's done. Right?
And finally, Hellblade is coming out on Xbox One.
Yay!
Good. I want more people to play it.
Yeah, that's great news. It really is.
Yeah. It's funny. On Facebook, I am part of few different groups, and one of the groups I'm part of is Podcast Beyond, which is basically Beyond is a PlayStation focused IGN podcast. So you can imagine that most of the people on Podcast Beyond are like hardcore PlayStation fanboys. And I just love the way that they talk. I'm not sure if most Xbox fans are really going to enjoy a game that has this much nuance to it. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like, are you frigging kidding me right now? Like, you think that, like, literally, like, what you're saying right now is that you think PlayStation players are smarter than Like, it's a fucking preference for a console, you shit. Like, get off your high horse. I saw, and I mean, I didn't even bother to comment. I just like, this is a fight I don't want to get into because I just don't fight on the internet anymore. It's not worth it. But I just chuckled, and for me, something like this is the more people to play a game like this, which has a message behind it, it has something to say, the better. Like, I'm so glad that this didn't end up being an exclusive for PlayStation.
And Xbox owners are dying for something good to play.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just dying for it. My God.
And it's gonna look good too. It's gonna look good like on the Xbox One X. It's gonna look pretty.
Yep.
And I mean, if anything,
I'll play it again. I'll play it again just for the Chivos and just to relive the experience all over again. It's that good.
Yeah, and honestly, like I say, in the long run, considering that Ninja Theory went out on a limb to get this one made to prove that you can make really great games on a fairly tight budget, tight in this business, is more sales equals a little bit more money in the coffers to continue on this journey, right? I mean, I know that they're probably looking at a sequel of this one, so the more sales, the better. There's nothing but good things that this thing's coming to the Xbox.
Well, I was just gonna say, if anyone does pick up the game, watch the extras because there's some really good backstory into what went into making this game and how they talk to mental health professionals, and it's fascinating. So definitely, when you play the game, don't close it and walk away. Watch some of the extras. There's some really fantastic footage there of the team that put that game together, and it's awesome.
The whole thing is freaking fantastic. One of the best games of 2017, you might say.
Yep, without a shadow of a doubt.
Easily. Moving
on to the releases for this week. 2 big ones and a bunch of things that nobody's going to care about.
Nobody?
Well, maybe 6.
Nobody. Give me a second.
There'll be some Dollhouse fans, wouldn't there?
What? Sorry, what Dollhouse?
Dollhouse is coming out on March 27th by Sedesco, and we have it here for the PS4.
If it was related to the Eliza,
I know nothing about it, but I do know.
I was gonna say if it was related to the Eliza Dushku series, the Dollhouse. I don't know. Did either of you watch that?
Nope.
Like it was like, oh Jesus, probably getting old now. Like 6-7 years ago. It's a fantastic series. I think it only ran like 2 seasons, but it was like this really cool sort of sci-fi, like, you know, girls, like, it was a bunch of women programmed to be assassins type thing. And, you know, it kind of helps that Eliza Dushku is just ridiculously, good Lord. Ever since, what was it she was in? I'm trying to remember. What's the cheerleader movie? You guys remember the cheerleader movie?
I can't hear anyone.
The one with, God damn it, Shawn. Come on. Oh. Cheerleader. There's only so many cheerleader movies. Why am I not remembering the name of this movie? Bring It On. You remember Bring It On?
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah, she was in Bring It On. She was like the cheerleader with the attitude. She's hot. Like, she's not kind of hot. She's ridiculous hot. Anyways, she played an assassin. Like, it was a really kick-ass series. I don't think it got the time that it deserved. So, anyways, rolling back around, my point is that if it was that Dollhouse, I'd play that game.
Well, it's not that Dollhouse.
So I don't want to play that game.
Yeah, you might not want to. But the things that you might want to play this week, Far Cry 5, which is out yesterday, being that today is Wednesday, and MLB 18.
Well, look, if you're a baseball fan,
it's your only option if you're a baseball fan.
Yeah, exactly. It's your only MLB game to play, really. and they do a hell of a job. It's a great, every year you can predict what it's going to score. It always seems to score in the 90 range. It's always flawless mechanically. It's always wonderful playing with some of your favorite players and your favorite teams.
Is there enough?
Like a lot of these sports games, it gets predictable every year. You kind of know what you're going to get.
And that's what I was going to say. Like, is there enough innovation apart from roster changes in any of these games anymore? I gave up a long time ago on a lot of sports games because I was tired of like 1 or 2 minor improvements and the same $80 or $90 game that I bought the year before.
I always get a chuckle when I get the review guide because all these sports games come with really comprehensive review guides to really tell you all the changes they made. Like, we changed the blade of grass and we changed the dirt in the outfield, and we made this tweak to the anime. Oh, it is, but they really want to tell you every little tweak that they made. So
you can see the contour of their cup. Like what?
Yeah.
Like,
sure. The suns, the scoreboards, like the surroundings, like so they do make, but it's really incremental changes. It is slight changes, all to get that yearly release going. You know what I mean?
And I wonder, like you say, it scores in this, scores in that. Like I wonder if a lot of the time, because of a game like this, you can't hand a review of something like MLB to an inexperienced reviewer, like someone who's never played the series before. Almost, you guys gave it to Michael Chow, right?
Yeah, and he's got a lot of experience with the franchise.
But that's just it. That's exactly the point I'm about to make, though. Is you're giving it to a guy who was clearly a baseball fan and a super fan, and a guy who was also borderline what you would say is a super fan of the series. And this isn't a knock on Michael at all by any stretch. It's just, the point is that the people who are actually reviewing this and throwing that number out there are people who are dedicated to the series. So it seems skewed. And I mean, this is something that I would honestly venture out and say, like, even you review, Trevor, for example, you're like, I'm the Madden guy. I'm the Madden guy, right?
I reviewed MLB for years. For years, I reviewed it.
I mean, you're pretty good.
I remember the first time I ever picked up the game, I was really blown away. I was like, holy shit, they've got Cecil Fielder's swing down pat, and look at the stadiums. Oh my God, that's Rogers Arena. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you really got a sense for like I remember being blown away the first time I played it. So,
but I mean, you
I don't know if it would if somebody picked it up for the first time and played it. It would be interesting to see what they had to say.
Yeah,
I'd be surprised if they. I'd be surprised if it came in if somebody brand new to MLB picked it up, played it. Here, review this. You've got no experience. Review this. I'd be surprised if they came in with a low score. Like I'd be really surprised. I think anybody who picks it up for the first time would be blown away. It's an incredible baseball sim.
There's something to be said for a good critical eye though, because even you, as the guy who's done Madden for so long, I think it was not last year, maybe the year before. I think didn't you come in at like a 70 something for a game, and not necessarily super high, because you were like, look, people are going to put their money out on this from year after year after year, and there's just not enough brought this time to make it different.
Yeah, that was exactly. I remember. I think it was 2 Maddens ago where I was pretty critical, where I felt that not enough had been done, that it was almost in some ways a step back.
Well, I think, I think you have to be on anything, especially like people like to talk about, the yearly franchises. So we've got the Call of Duties and stuff like that, but at least they're done by different studios. Usually there's a different narrative direction, that sort of thing. But a sports game is a sports game. And when you are bringing something to the table year after year after year, I mean, what are you changing that makes it worth that $80?
Yeah, Michael's review should be in tonight, actually. So I'm curious what he comes out as. But if I had to guess, I think it's going to be high 80s, low 90s. And I think, it seems as though it's one of those sports games where it's so predictable year in, year out what you're going to get.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's kind of the same for any genre, though. If you give a fighting game to somebody who's not familiar with fighters, maybe they're not going to... I mean, they wouldn't score it the same way as somebody who likes fighting games. So
yeah, well, familiarity,
you can apply that to anybody.
For sure. Familiarity for sure. But the funny thing is like, even though you're always getting, the people that are usually reviewing these games are people who are very experienced with the series. But I think that it's rare to see somebody who takes the same stance as Trevor in that, like, look, I'm not only looking at it for someone, from the eyes of someone who's experienced and who's played this year after year. I'm also looking at it from the eyes of a consumer who's going to spend $80 and go, yeah, it's still a great game. Like, this game is fantastic if you're just jumping into it. But what about the guy? And I mean, granted, with most sports games, these guys buy this game year after year after year. So he at least has that critical eye, though, that goes, look, if you bought this game last year, don't fucking bother this year. It's a waste of your money, because there's not enough improvement to make it worth it, right? So it's good to have that extra critical eye and be experienced, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. But that's where a review score becomes insufficient. So just putting a number on something. I mean, personally, I'm not a fan of putting numbers on reviews. It's something that we have to do just because that's the way the industry works. But it loses so much of the nuance, because I'm sure even in Trev's high 70s review of Madden, he's still saying this is a great football game.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
just,
for sure.
Yeah, it's just not hitting the separation to make it worthwhile for somebody who bought it last year.
I mean, whether or not the industry ever changes, who knows? But I'm 100% with you, because, I mean, I don't know if we've talked about it on the cast specifically, but the idea
we talked about it off the cast, for sure.
Well, skip to the score. It's just a number. You're missing all the nuance. You're missing literally all the meat. Oh, they gave it an 80. That means it's good. Okay, but why? Well, I don't know. They gave it an 80. Like, listen, you fucking inbred motherfucker. Read the fucking thing. Because you asked them about it and they didn't actually read anything. You know what I mean? And there's so much nuance. There's so much information, obviously, that goes into actually putting that together. And it's the same reason, like, when people will yell and scream about a review that says that's a 70, why are you shitting all over this game? First of all, 70 on the 100-point scale is a really good review. And did you read it? Did you read it? Yep. And you'll see that the writer was like, these are really great things about this game, and these are a couple things that really will pull you away from it, but at least providing some context to that number that you skipped to because you're an idiot.
Yep, there's 1,000 or 1,500 words backing up those two little numbers, so you might want to look at that.
I would imagine at this point it's got to be such a struggle. I mean, I used to pain myself over every paragraph, every sentence of a written review because I wanted, not only did I want to do the game justice, but I wanted to showcase the fact that I knew what I was talking about in that review. And I pained over like simple things like sentence structure and the specific words that I used. And knowing that 90% of people will skip over it if it's written is just an insult. That's what I do like now about the fact that we've made that transition to there's so much video content. It's a lot easier for someone to sit through if they feel like they're being read to, because apparently reading is hard for this generation. You know, they just want people to talk to them.
You're relentless today. That's like 5 times you've dug into this.
Boy.
Yeah.
we apologize to everyone under 35 today.
Under 35? Fuck you, man. I'm literally talking to kids like that are like my son's age at like 20. It's different now. And I mean, I'm the crotchety old guy that's kind of stuck in his ways, probably. But I mean, it just seems insulting that someone's going to skip over all that written stuff just to go to a number. And at least with video, they're less inclined to skip because you've got pretty pictures going in front of their faces, and they just get entranced by that because they're easy to entertain. You know what I mean? Like, oh, look at the pretty pictures, and they're saying things, and then the score comes at the end, but they've actually listened to everything that you have to say. Right? So there's some context given that even when they see that score at the end, they heard this and they heard that. Oh yeah, he still kind of liked it. At least it forces them to listen to what you would have written in, you know, from the beginning. I hate kids, apparently. I hate young people. Get off my lawn.
And with that, we're going to move into the Press X Perfect List for this week.
Yay.
It's perfect time.
Yay.
It's time to get perfection, boys.
All right.
And this week, in honor of Joseph Seed in Far Cry 5, we are going to pick 10 perfect video game villains.
The baddest of the baddies.
The baddest of the bad, the coolest of the bad. We're just talking perfect villains.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And I went first last week, so maybe we should let Trev take it away.
Oh, sweet. I don't want to have to try and pick 4 of this one.
Oh, yeah, I guess that means I got 4. Oh, I don't like that.
Yeah, you better start Googling, bro.
Well, yeah. Well, I am going to, keeping with the Far Cry theme, I'm going to go with Voss.
Good pick.
He was just... Yeah, he was awesome. He was an unpredictable psychopath. And, yeah, he was just... You always got the sense that he was just barely hanging on to his sanity. And I love that about him. He was just so unpredictable, vicious. And he made that game to the point where... when he is no longer in that game anymore, my interest fell right off. So... yeah, he's my first pick.
And they used him so well too, like even in the key art and stuff for that game, where it's just him with his head kind of cocked to the side and like a knife basically held at your face if you're in like first person sort of thing. Like he came across even just visually as very menacing, and then, you know, and that's just like, I haven't even played the game yet. He looks insane, and then you get to meet him in game, and you're like, yeah, this fucker is genuinely insane. Like, so good. And I'm really pumped to see that dude. What's his name? His Michael something. I can't remember his name, and I feel
Michael Mondo.
Yeah, that's right, Mike Mondo. He's if you had stuck around for the end credits scene in Spider-Man Homecoming, you know that in the next Spider-Man movie, he's gonna fuck with Spider-Man hard. That's going to be cool. Like he's a good badass. Like I hope he's not typecast necessarily, but he's really good at being an evil badass.
My favorite thing about Voss is that, well, basically I wanted him to win because your character in Far Cry 3 is such a douchebag.
Way to cheer for the bad guy, Paul.
I was like, kill me. Kill me. Just do it. Get it done, Voss. All right, Shawn, hit us with a pick.
Fuck. I have some guys in my head, but like characters or games that we've talked about a lot.
Perfect villain is a perfect villain. Doesn't matter what game they're from.
You know who I like? I like Handsome Jack from the Borderlands franchise.
That's a good pick.
Yeah, and I mean, not only is like he's that perfect cross between not only being a good villain, badass type character, but the humor. I mean, and that's just more so. I mean, that just kind of goes hand in hand with the Borderlands franchise altogether. But that just quirky, real on the nose type humor is just so good. And he was that guy that you love to hate. You know what I mean? Like you kind of liked him. You kind of liked him as much as you hated him. And that's what I loved about Handsome Jack. He was such a dick, but you still thought he was actually pretty cool all at the same time.
Yeah, you're like, damn, Handsome Jack. Guy's pretty
and
cool.
And he was handsome. I mean, mask and all, but he was a handsome gentleman. Devastatingly handsome. Ooh.
Yeah, I'm going there.
Do it.
All right, Paul.
All right, I got one in mind. And this one is from this series has a lot of fantastic, insane villains, and that's the Metal Gear series.
Ooh.
I'm going to go with my personal favorite, which is Psycho Mantis.
And I'll be the first to admit I've seen the name, and I've seen the name referred to as one of the best bad guys ever numerous times, and I am 100% unfamiliar.
Okay, so Psycho Mantis shows up the first time in Metal Gear Solid, and he's basically a psychic. So he takes control of Snake's partner Meryl, and you're basically trying to defeat him without having to kill her. If that makes sense, because their minds are linked. And this is back in 1999 when there was nothing cool going on in games, basically. And Kojima, being the genius that he was, the game actually read your memory card. And he would say, I'm reading your mind right now. And if you had other Konami titles on your memory card, he would say, you like Street Fighter.
I do remember seeing that it would actually read the memory card, which is like, I mean, that's pretty advanced for its time.
At the time.
That's
for
fucking
sure.
cool.
And like the control in that fight, if you had your controller plugged into port 1, your controls wouldn't work right. So you had to actually unplug the controller, plug it into port 2 to have full control of Snake.
I remember seeing that, like write up stuff about that, and like weren't people genuinely confused and thinking like, and the game was genuinely fucked, and like they're like, I'm shutting this shit off, and
there's a lot of things that fuck with you in that fight.
That's
if
crazy.
You haven't played it or haven't seen it, I definitely recommend either playing it or looking it up on YouTube. It's pretty cool. Psycho Mantis.
That's a neat sort of like self-awareness, I guess, that like I shouldn't say not a lot of games, but almost no games have ever really achieved. Like the fact that you needed to unplug your controller from the port and plug it back into a different one. That's some advanced shit.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It was way outside the box, especially at the time.
That's wow. That I'm genuinely impressed, because that is not something that I've never seen or heard of anything else quite like that.
Oh yeah.
Genuinely impressed. That is a good pick. That's cool.
You're up, Trev.
All right, I'm going to make this quick and easy. I'm going to go with the Joker from the Batman Arkham series. He's awesome. Mark Hamill does such a great job. He's just such a memorable character. He's what makes he's a big reason of why that franchise is so successful. So I am going to lock in the Joker.
He's the best Joker too. He really is.
He's awesome.
I'm nodding my head.
Yeah, like he's just so fucking good at that character.
Especially in Asylum with the combo of the Joker and Scarecrow. And, man. Yeah. Good pick, Trev.
I think so.
No, there's not even thinking, like, we like to joke about this is perfect, but he is literally one of the most perfect villains, and especially done by Mark Hamill. He just nails. I mean, it's funny now. Like every time I hear another person do Joker, I'm like, it's not Joker. It's not Joker. It's not him. He's got it. It's like who is it that does bats in a lot of the old animated? It's Kevin Conroy, isn't it?
Kevin Conroy. Yeah.
That's right.
It's just, to me, Kevin Conroy is the voice of the bat. You know what I mean? So, yeah, good pick, dude.
It's to you, Shawn.
I'm gonna go. This is an easy pick now that I've had some time to think about it. I'm gonna go with Frau Engel from Wolf 2.
Oh, she's so insane.
She makes your
when a game features Hitler. And Hitler's not the most monstrous character. It's actually Frau. Frau is way worse than Hitler.
What?
That says something.
I think there's genuinely something to be said, too, for the fact that she makes your skin crawl. Not a lot of games and not a lot of people, we're so aware of the fact that we're playing a game, that you don't always get that invested into it because you're like, this isn't reality. This is like something I'm playing to enjoy myself. She is so cringingly evil that you're sitting there playing the game and you can feel the hair in your neck stand up when she talks. Mm-hmm. She's that evil, and that's effective. Sure. It's so effective. Like, I hated her.
Good pick.
You said it, bud.
If you didn't pick her, I was definitely picking her.
Yeah.
At least you didn't call me a cocksucker.
I still need to pull that out into a soundbite just so I can use it.
Oh my God. I always listen to the podcast at least once, because I was explaining to somebody how, while we're involved in conversation, it's not like we're paying attention. But it's a lot different from being able to sit back and just listen and take it all back in. So I always like to listen, that one time around. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't literally go to the end of that section on the last podcast and rewind 2 minutes and do it 10 times over and over. You're a cocksucker. That's what you are. I could not stop laughing. I had not laughed that hard in a long time. So thank you, Trevor. Thank you so much for that. Because that was comedy gold.
He was so mad.
If you pick what I'm gonna pick, I'm gonna punch you.
Good times. If you haven't heard that, you should definitely go listen to episode 11. That's the one where Trev calls me a cocksucker.
It's just as funny talking about it now. It was just so good. You're a cocksucker. That's what you are.
All right, man. I'm going to make a pick here, and it's going back to the SNES days when, villains, they just weren't that bad. But there was one dude who was really bad, and that was Kefka from Final Fantasy 3/6.
3/6, the clown.
It's just his laugh. I don't know how they produced that laugh on a SNES, but it's so good.
Okay, can we talk about the fact that you just called it a SNES? Who
SNES?
the fuck says that?
SNES?
It's a Super NES. Who says SNES?
Oh, no one says Super NES. It's SNES or Super Nintendo.
What the fuck?
I always just called it Super Nintendo.
Okay, I've seen Super NES, Super NES. I've never heard anybody call it a SNES. That sounds like you sneezed.
Well, what can I say? I don't know. It's
credibility is going out the window here, man.
SNES.
No one calls it that. All right. We need to find out from the listeners. Maybe I'm far off here. I've never heard anybody call it a SNES ever. So press X to podcast listeners. If you're not on the Facebook group already, get on the Facebook group, look us up, press X to podcast, and tell us how you pronounce that. Because I want to know if I'm wrong or if Paul's weird.
We might just have to make a poll, actually, on the Facebook group.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll get to that, but I also just want to encourage people who are not part of the Facebook group to join the Facebook group.
Yeah, get on our level, would you? I mean, we're just trolling around there waiting to be dicks to everyone. And
now that I'm working from home, I literally wait for those Facebook pop-ups and be like, who can I fuck with now?
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, it's kind of my nature.
Yep. Trev, go for it.
All right, I am going to pick someone that's been around. This character is as old as dirt. He's been a thorn in Mario's side.
I knew that's where you were going.
Since the very beginning. I
was going to pick that.
Or close to the beginning. I'm going to go with Bowser. He's not the most violent character. He's kind of big and burly like me. But yeah, I'm going to go with Bowser just because he's been around for so long. He's got staying power, and yeah, he's just been sort of a menace to Mario for so many years. So he's gonna be my next perfect pick.
God damn it! Bowser. That's what I was gonna say. I mean, I'm not gonna stoop to your level. I'm not gonna stoop to your level. I'm not gonna be that guy.
No, that was uncalled for.
And I mean, he does have staying power, which is pretty respectable in a gentleman. With staying power.
I can't believe that he continues to succeed in stealing Peach with the same tactics. Like, Mario, get your shit together. Like, build a wall. I don't know, but
have you ever
gotta protect that princess?
Has anybody ever seen that webcomic where it's Peach lying in bed? She's like having a smoke, lying in bed beside this dude who there's like literally like a Bowser costume thrown on the floor, and they're lying in bed together. And the Bowser guy is like, he still falls for the same story, and she's like, yeah, he's an idiot. Like,
yeah, I think there's a case to be made there that Mario is A, stupid, and B, kind of a terrorist, killing all the Goombas and so on.
Well, yeah, I mean, what did they ever do to him?
Well, for the most part, they're just jumping around. They might be in his path, but I don't think they're actively opposing him. They'd have no
limbs. Like, really, what kind of damage can they do?
They're just so satisfying when you jump on their cute little heads.
Well, it's more about like jumping on numerous at the same time. You know what I mean? One after the other after the other. That's the only reason I do it. Fuck those mushroom motherfuckers. If I'm going to be angry, I'm going to be angry the whole cast. I'm just going to yell at everything.
Well, why don't you go ahead and give us your angriest possible pick for villain?
Your last pick, too.
Okay, I'm not angry. I feel like we talk about a lot of the same games over and over and over. And I mean, maybe that just means that they have that much importance and they have that much sticking power. But a bad guy that really sticks out for me is Andrew Ryan from the BioShock series. And interestingly enough is that like he's a bad guy that had good intentions. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
Well, I mean, well, no, like in the whole Rapture setup, is a man not entitled to the sweat from his brow? Like there's, the idea is that people are going to go there to be better, to go that, they're there to better themselves and do things that the rest of the world is not ready to do yet, make advancements that the rest of the world can't do, and then gets in over his head. You know what I mean? And it just goes a lot further than he anticipated. So he becomes a bad guy with the purest of intentions, in a sense. You know what I mean? To the point where he almost loses himself to it, if that makes sense. But it just, more so than anything, it was just compelling. And it's the way that we talked about it last week when we were talking about trailers, and you're coming in to Rapture and you hear that Andrew Ryan voiceover. Mm-hmm. It's so good in pulling you into the game, but it just gives you an idea of him as a person, and your first thought isn't necessarily villain, which is really interesting. You know what I mean? Like, mm-hmm. his intentions were purely scientific, I guess you'd want to say, from the start, and then it just evolved into something so much more sinister.
That is a perfect explanation of a perfect villain. Perfect pick, Shawn.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Paul, your final pick.
Yep, I got one more. I got several things to say, but I gotta pick one.
I'm trying to predict in my head who you're gonna pick.
I think I know what he's talking about.
Is it the one that you're gonna pick? Because I want to hear you call him a cocksucker again.
Probably not. Mine's out of left field a little bit.
Oh, okay, shit. Oh, I guess that means I'm not gonna guess it, Trev.
God, I hope you do. I hope you do.
I hope I do. I'm gonna pick the Elusive Man from Mass Effect.
I think that's a cool pick, man.
You cocksucker.
You don't mean it this time.
No.
Last time you really
not
meant
quite
it.
as much.
Yeah, no, last time you were fucking viscerally angry.
The Elusive Man is such a good character. Like, you have no idea what his intentions are or where his allegiances lie. Is he on the bad guy's side? Is he a force of good? You just don't know. And
well, he just strings you along.
He does. And he's such a manipulator. And obviously Martin Sheen is a fantastic actor, so that helps take it a long way. But the Elusive Man is top notch.
Yeah, no, I would not even consider arguing that. He was perfect, actually. I mean, if we're gonna
perfection,
if we're gonna say anything, I mean, it's a perfect pick for a perfect list.
Perfect.
Trev,
make it a perfect 10.
I am going to go with a character that just gave me fucking nightmares. Pyramid Head from Silent Hill 2.
Oh,
I mean, he dude.
Would. Oh my god! Like, just shows up. Just kind of shows up out of nowhere and just brutalizes anything in front of it. Like, when you first encounter that character, you're like, how am I going to even make it through the rest of this game with this guy lurking about? And he's just terrifying. Pyramid Head.
I think that's my problem with those types of games too, is that I get so invested. A good buddy of mine, Brad, is he doesn't get fazed by scary things. You know, like, he'll watch a horror movie and not flinch because he's like, oh, it's make-believe, it's a movie. You know what I mean? Whereas I'm the complete polar opposite in that I get so invested. I know it's fake. I know it's all fantasy and everything else, but I buy into the fantasy of it and I let it take over. I get genuinely scared. And Pyramid Head fucking terrified me. Not kind of terrified me, but like, I mean, the only comparable scare I've had in a video game was in the PT demo, the floating ghost, where, I mean, if anybody played it, you know, you're in the bathroom and you're trying to figure what the fuck is going on. You're looking at the alarm clock. You're in the hallway. You go towards the door, and there's this fucking floating ghost at the end of the hallway. And I remember we were playing it with 4 of us. There were 4 people playing, and we were, you know, passing the controller back and forth between each other because we, you know, I don't know what to do, because you very much need to kind of navigate your way through that specifically, in a sense, right? And it had been passed to me, and I'm looking at this character, and I'm like, I don't think I can step forward. No, I'm not doing it. And so, like, I would like step a half step forward, and then I lost any cojones I might have had, any gumption I might have had, and I'm like, fuck it, I'm not doing it. And the second I pushed back on the thumbstick to get the fuck out of Dodge, that thing came rushing at my face, and my controller, I wish I was making this up, it hit the ceiling. I threw it right to the ceiling. And I screamed out loud. And I mean, but that's effective horror right there. And that's what Pyramid Head kind of did to me. I'm such a scaredy cat. Paul, you've been witness.
Oh, I have. I wish we had PT on video, because, my God, that would be gold. Absolute gold.
That would be one that would probably be worth filming me playing. I mean, if there's anything that's entertaining is watching a complete pansy play a horror game.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. That turned out pretty darn well. We've got Voss from Far Cry 3, Handsome Jack, Psycho Mantis, the Joker, Frau Engel, Bowser, Pyramid Head, the Elusive Man, Kefka, and Andrew Ryan from BioShock.
I
did quite well.
That's a really good list. I mean,
it really is.
Now that I'm thinking about it, like I can actually think of like some other really good villains too. But
for sure,
but that's a pretty solid list. One might say it's perfect.
There could only be 10, and those are the perfect 10. And that's all we're gonna say about that.
Well, I mean, now that we know, I mean, maybe you guys can join me on this. Now that we know that our good friend, amigo, compadre, Alex Thomas is counting how many perfects we say in a perfect list. If you could join me in a chorus of perfects, let's see. We're going to, for 10 seconds is too long. 5 seconds worth. Let's see if Alex Thomas can count the perfects. Are you ready?
I'm very ready.
I'm ready.
All right. I'm looking at a timer. On your mark, get set. We'll hold it. Not yet. Go.
Perfect.
One might say it's perfect. It might be perfect.
It's perfect. I think it's perfect.
Pretty perfect.
It might be perfect. It's perfect.
Fantastically perfect. Perfect. And time.
And perfect.
If he gets that, I'm not going to count to like check, but
he'll get it. I have faith in him. He'll listen back. He'll slow it down.
He will, man. Like
162, guys. Well done.
You're so right.
Oh, that's pretty good.
I give that about a 79.
I can't wait to see that number. That's funny.
And on that note, we are going to get out of here. Thanks everybody for listening. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up, give us a review, share it with all your friends, get on the Facebook group, do all that stuff. We appreciate your support. Thank you very much. Do you guys have anything you want to say?
I hope next week that my throat doesn't hurt.
More rum and Pepsi.
Well, it definitely helped. I mean, I think I kept up my pep for most of the podcast.
Yeah, you had some piss and vinegar, buddy.
I hate the children.
He hates the children, really. Everybody.
But I don't. I hate whiners.
That's okay. They hate you too.
They probably do.
Oh, they do.
I bet you there's people who listen to this who are like, I like that Trevor guy, I like that Paul guy, but Shawn's a dick. And I'm completely okay with that.
It's like, well, are they wrong? Really?
I thought you were my homie. Yeah, they're
we're
wrong.
Homies,
I'm
but
not
you're a
really
total
a dick. I am not. I'm opinionated.
That's right. You play
and
a dick on TV.
I'll be opinionated next week too.
I'm sure you will. And we hope you will join us then. And until next Wednesday, see you later, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, I like that final one.
Yeah, really stretched out there.
Yeah,
That's
really,
great.
Yes, you really stretched your vocals.
Oof.